Hello, welcome back. We're taking a look at the lessons of the Holy Spirit here, and specifically the third of the lessons that we're looking at, be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. And the topic for today is this vigilance. So we're going to spend some time on this and consider why it's so important that we are vigilant only for God and his kingdom. So, as we see throughout A Course in Miracles, this is a thought system. And we've spent a significant amount of time in the last couple of weeks looking specifically at the Course as a thought system. It's a way of seeing things, of perceiving things. In other words, it's a way of looking at the world, at yourself, and everything and everyone that appears to be here in the world, including yourself and the world itself, looking at it differently, completely differently than we've been conditioned to see it. Really, we've been conditioned and attenuated, if you want to call it brainwashed, great. If you want to call it indoctrinated, that's kind of funny and all too true, right? Isn't it? We have been trained to see things a certain way, and reality is completely different. This is not our reality. If you ever wonder why I do this, it's a video. It's for effect, right? You're not a body, in other words. It's not the Son of God. We're not trained in the world to see it that way. Even some of our spiritual and religious traditions don't teach us this. That certainly speaks to my experience. I know it probably informs many of your experiences as well. I was raised in not one but two fundamentalist Christian traditions, and God was completely separate. The idea was God is a separate superior being who can strike you down from on high and who's jealous. You got to be kidding me, right? Perfect love, jealous. Nah, I never bought that. Vindictive, judgmental? No, God doesn't judge. But when we see ourselves as an ego, we do all the time. This is something the ego does not want us to believe. It may very well be shrieking at you right now, telling you to turn this guy off. What is this Course in Miracles? No, no, no. Go back to the way you were. Of course you're a body, right? Right. No. Deep down, we all know this. A Course in Miracles tells us this, and this may serve as a confirmation for you of something that you feel that you've always somehow known. And at the same time, it may seem like an existential challenge, and you may experience extraordinary resistance. So be it. Welcome to the path. We have all experienced this resistance when one first encounters these ideas, which run exactly 180 degrees opposite from the way we've been conditioned in the world. Our biology textbooks certainly don't tell us there is no world, but this course does. And deep down, we know it's true. So expect the resistance. The first time one encounters these ideas, the ego is bound to offer extraordinary resistance, and it attempts in many, many ways to distract us, to pull our gaze, if you will, away from what really matters, to take our eyes off the prize, if you prefer that saying. There are many sayings we could use. The ego aims to keep us occupied so that we don't question its very existence. It does not exist. It is a simple mistake that is not true, and in fact has never been, and doesn't exist right now. And we're told here in the Course that the ego is correct about one thing and one thing only, that you will set it aside. When is really up to you. And perhaps that may be right now, today, which would be very cool. So as we look at this final lesson of the Holy Spirit here in chapter 6, section 5 of the text, it's entitled The Lessons of the Holy Spirit, and be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. So excuse me, the sneeze I offer for free. Just kidding, this whole YouTube channel's free. When we're thinking about this, the word only is very important. It signifies something very important, that we have a choice, and we do. We have a choice in the present moment between two thought systems. Remember, just a couple of minutes ago, we were looking at the world as a perception. We see it one way. We're learning a different way of seeing it, the Holy Spirit's way of seeing it. That's what we're learning. We're learning to perceive truly. We're learning to see things for what they are, as they are, how they are, rather than the way we've made them in the world, rather than the way we have orchestrated and manipulated and categorized and subcategorized and divided and subdivided until we're utterly exhausted, and this communication mechanism that we call the body ends up crapping out and dying and disappearing. We exhaust ourselves needlessly. Now, there's nothing we can do here in the world to stop ourselves necessarily from getting gray hair, or guys to have it, stay up there and not fall out, right? There are many things that go on here in the world, but no matter what is coming all around you, at you, in your experience, you still have, as we all have, the present moment choice of thought systems. We could choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit instead of the ego. We could choose God instead of the ego. We could choose love instead of fear. Right now, in the present moment, you could choose truth instead of illusion. You could learn to perceive truly rather than to misperceive. 8 billion individual bodies, self-sustaining survival units competing for what we deem to be scarce resources. That's misperception. Seeing perfect oneness. That's true perception. So we're learning this. This is a major lesson of the Holy Spirit. Be vigilant only for God and his kingdom only. We have a choice. Be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. When you truly practice this, what do you then see? Yeah. So a large part of this is allowing. Many spiritual teachers in many traditions talk about accepting and allowing. Here in the Course, it's no different. We accept truth. just as it is. We allow truth to be just as it is. We allow ourselves to have in our mind only what God put there. Therefore, we allow it to be just as it is. We allow truth, what God put in our mind, to be just as it is. By the way, our minds never left its source. Ideas leave not their source. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. You are the thought of God. Where are you? Yes. We're allowing truth to be just as it is. Now, if you're curious as a practical matter, this is a very, very powerful prayer that you could adopt and say often, if you so choose. You could ask for help, allowing truth to be just as it is. Help me allow truth to be just as it is. Help me allow truth to be just as it is. What this cuts out is our interference, our false sense of control, our need to manipulate and orchestrate and tell God what truth should be. Which, when we go off and categorize and subcategorize and do pitched battle with each other and snipe at each other and see ourselves as victims of the world that appears to surround us, that's what we're doing, is we're attempting to order reality all by our little ego selves, and it doesn't work. As you know, it doesn't work. Holy Spirit's thought system, on the other hand, works perfectly if we allow it to. So when we accept truth just as it is, we're teaching peace because we believe in it. This is very, very important to allow our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, to teach us. We choose through our inner teacher. We choose our inner teacher's thought system instead of the ego. And the more we consistently become aware of this choice and make this choice, the brighter and the happier, the more loving our experience becomes, until such time as we completely set the ego aside. So, along the way, as long as we have doubts, we won't know, we won't feel God's perfect accomplishment. It won't be evident to us as long as we have doubts, which is personified. It's the perfect word, isn't it? Personified, exemplified, symbolized by the ego. God's perfect accomplishment won't be apparent to us as long as we have doubts. So as we have them, we notice awareness is so key and important, because with this awareness, we're able to forgive anything that is not wholly joyous. We're able to appeal to our inner teacher for guidance and for help. That it takes the present moment awareness to be able to do that. Because if you're not aware that something's going on, how could you possibly remedy it? You can't expect yourself to do that. So be nice to yourself on that one. If you're unaware for vast periods of the day, no problem. When you remember the ideas here, bring your mind back to them. Life is like a waking, breathing meditation in exactly this way. This is, incidentally, why meditation's a thing. It is. It's not so we can repair the body's cells or anything like that. I mean, that just kind of happens as a result of the mind training, mind being primary, of course, though we're not taught that in the world. You're being taught that right now. So it's why it's a thing. It's why calm, abiding meditation, different types of meditation are a thing. Because you cannot expect yourself to solve any problem if you're not aware of it. So we develop the awareness, the present moment awareness, so that we may choose. It's one of the benefits of meditation is we open up in practice here in the world a gap between stimulus and response. Let's say there's somebody at work that is difficult. Every time they open their mouth and say something to you, it comes across as snide or rude or oppressive or something, and you have a habitual reaction. You may or may not say something to this person, but you're certainly thinking, what an asshole, for example, something like that. Now, let's say that's habitual, and then you develop a very good habit of meditation practice for a year or two, or 30, 40. Just saying. Let's say you develop this habit. What you'll begin to notice if you diligently work on it is that the same person comes to work with the same attitude, yet your response is different. Somebody says something, this person says something really mean and nasty, like they always have, and you don't have the habitual reaction anymore. Boom, you've opened up a gap between stimulus and your response. In this gap, you may choose differently. You may choose the strength of Christ, which incidentally is who we all are. Christ does not refer only to the historical Jesus. Christ is the Son of God, you, and me, and everyone else, us. You may choose. You may choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit instead of the ego. You have that opportunity. So we create this awareness for ourselves, and we use this awareness to choose. In fact, the dictionary definition here in the course, dictionary definition being a figure of speech, the course's definition of heaven is the awareness of perfect oneness. So we're learning to see this, to experience this and know it. Hence the vigilance. That's why this idea is so important. Be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. Be vigilant only for love. When you notice yourself distracted, carried away, bring your awareness back to the object of meditation. True forgiveness of the Son of God, touching base with your inner teacher, connecting with your inner teacher, checking in. Yeah. It's fundamentally important, and that's why it requires a 20-minute conversation, actually. That's why it requires repetition, because we so easily get carried away and distracted. And, we have the tools to pull ourselves away from what really matters. Don't we? We all have a cell phone. We all have computers. And even if we didn't have that, we would still get pulled away by the slightest thing. So we bring our awareness back. So living, breathing, waking meditation, vigilance, be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. Be vigilant for it. Only it. So we're invited in the practice of A Course in Miracles to want the peace of God. In fact, that's a workbook lesson. I want the peace of God. what we mean here is we want only the peace of God. If we want and prioritize only that, what do we see? Yeah. Yes. That's my closing word. Yes. All right. So thank you as always for joining me here, and welcome to those of you who have recently subscribed. Thank you for joining us. If you've not yet subscribed, this is the subscription button. It's the red arrow in the corner of your screen. Go ahead and click that and subscribe and join us. We'd love to have you. What we've got going here is a vibrant, growing community that's truly international. So I very much appreciate all of you being here from all over the world. If you have questions or comments, please feel welcome to leave them here, even if it's just dropping in to say hello. So yeah, feel welcome to do that. And I will talk to you very soon in the next video. Thanks for joining me.